from IIT Gandhinagar. We continue our Indian Knowledge Systems course with the second session with a very distinguished speaker, Geshe Lhakdor, who combines not only scholarship on Buddhism, a very important stream of Indian civilization, as we will further explore today, but also personal practice as a monk for many decades. He was the Dalai Lama's religious assistant and translator for 16 years. And today he heads in particular the library of Tibetan works and archives in Dharamsala. It's a great honor to have you, Geshe La, and we are now listening to your thoughts on Buddhism in the context of Indian civilization. Please.
So, good evening, everybody. Namaste. You know the meaning of the word namaste. Namaste means I bow down to you, to the God or the great being that is there in you. So this process of greeting or paying respect to each other is extremely important, both from a theistic point of view and also from a non-theistic point of view. Without judging other people, we must learn to respect them, love them, just as you want others respect you and love you. That is the basis of civilization. That is the basis of culture. The word culture and civilization have been described in different ways. But if you just look at the word itself, civilization, I hope, has a meaning of civilizing people. Unlike animals, I find this word interesting because we can say, generally speaking, we can say human beings. I do not know whether we can say human beings are civilized, but we can say human beings should be civilized. And we can say animals are not civilized in one sense, especially like tigers and lions. Because we cannot talk about culture and civilization with reference to animals and birds because of their limited mental capacity to understand the law of nature and sophisticated aspects of reality. Whereas we can expect human beings to be civilized and cultured because of this human mental capacity. So what is most important in our regular life and also in terms of Buddhist practice is that human beings, according to Christianity, is said to be the crown of the creation. And according to Buddhism, we call human life as precious human life. Our life becomes precious, provided if we use this human capacity to think in the positive direction, in the constructive side, and primarily helping each other, not harming others. That is the foundation of civilization or culture. This reminds me a statement by the very famous Indian philosopher Nagarjuna, who said that if you want to get well established in your life, now listen this carefully. If you want to get really established in your life, you must strive to benefit others. He did not say in order to get established, start this business, that business, go this way of earning money, become famous. That's what ordinary people are competing and doing. But he did not say that. He said, if you really want to settle, get established in your life, in terms of peace, in terms of happiness, in terms of success, the one magic thing that we can do is genuinely helping others. We can talk about many different types of civilization, primarily in terms of art and artifacts, and all these things are there. And there are many books that you can read. But one crucial thing towards which I'm focusing today, and I will be constantly coming back to that same point, is understanding one's own mind. I call our own mind as our boss. Our mind is our boss. You need to understand this one. Not your husband. Normally the wife points to the husband points to the wife saying, oh, she is my boss, he is my boss. No. Even your prime minister or president is not your boss in the true sense of the term. None of your family members are, in the true sense of the term, your boss. Your boss is your mind. This invisible, formless, shapeless, colorless thing, energy called mind, is the one that is directing you, controlling your life. That's your boss. That's your president, your prime minister. Now imagine, even from a common sense point of view, if I ask you a question, okay, your mind is your boss, but what kind of boss you want? A destructive one or constructive one? Everybody will immediately raise their hand and will say, yes, of course, I want a nice boss, good boss. It's common sense. So the question is that there is no denying the fact that we are all, every individual is controlled by one's mind. There's no denying the fact. Wherever you go, you hide yourself in the jungle, you hide yourself in the bathroom, wherever you go, this stupid thing called mind will be there until you die. Even you die, the mind is said to exist and continue its journey. Now, what is this mind? It's a big topic. We need to study more on that. But the important thing is, we all accept that there is a thing called mind, and it's this mind that is controlling us. That I'm sure you will all agree. Now, the question is, what kind of mind is controlling you right now? Is it a mind which is predominantly, I'm not expecting perfection, but is it a mind that is predominantly kind, compassionate, insightful, and full of wisdom? Concentrated, mindful mind? Or is it a mind which is distracted, short-sighted, egoistic, harmful, merciless? I cannot tell this to you. Everybody has to judge. That's why we need meditation. Just judge what kind of mind is controlling you. If you are predominantly controlled by negative emotions, it is 100% sure you are not going to get genuine happiness. 100% sure. You don't need to do any prediction or consult a clairvoyant or do any divination or things. It's 100% sure. Even if your parents are good, even if you have made a lot of money, it's 100% sure you will never get settled in your life. You will never be happy. This point is important because these days, if you look at the world is running today. Everybody is running hither and thither. Your 2 feet is too slow to reach to the destination you want to go. Thereby we invented bicycles, then 3-wheelers and 4-wheelers, and then cars and jeeps, and then train, and then aeroplane. Now aeroplane that we have right now is also slow. So people are thinking about, inventing much quicker, speedier vehicles. So the question is, why are we in such a hurry? What is our destination? Where do you really want to go? A very pertinent question has been asked by saying that we do not know from where we came from. We know that we are here in the world, but we do not know from where we came from. Very important thing. We do not know. Still, of course, you don't know right after the birth, but even now after so much degree and learning, still you don't know from where you came from. In Buddhism, we generally point our finger by saying you came from previous life, but what exactly is it? We have no idea from where we came from. We know we are here, that much we know, but how long are you going to live here? We have no clue, no idea. You take the best of the organic food, consult the best of family doctor, do all your needed exercise and things like that. All this will help you, but there's no guarantee that you will live up to, say, 50 or 60 or 70 or even tomorrow. This is a fact. I'm not trying to scare you, because we must accept the fact. Then we can change our mind. We know that we are going to die. That is 100% sure. Everybody knows. But we are pretending that we are not going to die. We are living as if we are not going to die. But you cannot cheat the death. Let me tell you a story to make this talk a little bit more interesting. There was a gentleman who was a little bit scared of death, but wanted to live. So one day he was in the marketplace. So somebody knocked his shoulder from behind. Then he looked back and he found the messenger of the death was standing there. He was horrified. But the messenger of the death, the Lord of Death, he said, no, this time I did not come to pick you up. I came to pick up someone else. And your turn is after 1 week. Then he felt, okay, I have time, so I must hide myself. He just left that place and ran and then hid himself in a kind of cave amidst the mountain. So he spent 6 days. On the until seventh day, nobody came. So on the 7th morning, he just craned his neck and came out of the cave and did some relaxing exercise and thought, okay, finally the messenger of death could not find me here. So there was nobody there. It was in the mountain. But suddenly somebody again tapped his shoulder from the behind. Then he was very surprised. And he said, how did you figure out that I'm here? And the messenger of death was, instead he said, I'm more amazed than you, because actually, the Lord of the Death has asked me to pick you up from here, but I saw you last time in the marketplace. So I was actually surprised. Anyway, this is now your turn to go. So by this story, there are so many stories like that. It can come anytime. Why I'm telling this? Many people think, oh, why should it? Some people even go to the extent of saying that, oh, Buddhism is a pessimistic religion. It talks about death, it talks about suffering, and what we actually want is the sunny side, life will be okay, everything will be okay, there will be no suffering. I mean, why should you tell lie? Buddhism do not just talk about suffering, it also talks about happiness. In order to get genuine happiness, you need to highlight the problems, difficulties, and then figure out how can you come out of these problems, difficulties, and find long-lasting happiness. So therefore, in Buddhism, we say suffering is introduction to happiness. Sometimes I use the word challenge instead of suffering, because people don't like the word suffering. Then I say challenge. Now in life, there are so many challenges. If you run away from challenges, you will never get any experience. It is by facing the challenges, troubles, difficulties that you learn. All the great, really, really genuinely great leaders in the world, they had experienced a lot of challenges. And that is how they become great men. That's how they learned the law of nature, the truth, the reality. Right? So therefore, what I'm trying to say is that we need to, one thing, by this talk, I'm not so interested in giving talks here and there, Every time I give a talk, I neither have any special qualification to share. But one thing that I sincerely try to do is to at least help the listener, especially the young people, to change their mind a little bit so that they are happier, so that when they face problems and difficulties, they know how to handle it. I'm concerned about this. Right? So therefore, I'm saying that today, everybody says I'm busy. Right? Everybody says, if you want to meet anybody, you need to make an appointment. Right? The Lord of Death, when it will come, it will not seek your appointment. So this seeking an appointment, all these things are, man-made conveniences or inconveniences, I don't know. But so therefore, what I'm saying is, we are today running. Everybody says I'm busy. It is not important to be busy. Number one, we really need to know this. It is not important to be busy. Many people think to be busy is important. It's not important to be busy. What is important is, what are you busy about? If you're really, really busy about something that's useful to you, that's beneficial to you, that's beneficial to others, then it's good to be busy. In Buddhism also, if I quote from this, there is a text by Maitreya called Sutra Alamkara, Ornament to the Discourses. There is a stanza which says, the Bodhisattvas who made a commitment to help others, it doesn't look good for the Bodhisattvas to relax and walk slowly. It means they should hurry up and do things for the betterment of other people. So it's not for money. But in today's world, people are busy. If you ask why are you busy, they'll give you many answers. But at the end of the day, they are primarily running for money. I'm not saying you don't need money. But seeing the material accumulation, getting money as the most important thing in our life is misplaced. It's wrong. You won't get long-lasting happiness from there. So therefore, whether you talk about culture and civilization, it is civilizing your mind. It is culturing your mind. So culturing and civilizing your mind primarily means identify the negative emotions in you. Identify the positive emotions in you. Weaken and if possible, gradually remove the negative emotions. Strengthen, nurture, cultivate the positive emotions. That is source of your strength. That is source of your peace. That is source of your happiness. And those positive emotions that you cultivate within yourself, they will be your constant company, not human company, not human friend. Again, I'm not saying you should not have a human friend. It's good to have good friend. We are ordinary beings, so we need not the friends of money and name. Unfortunately, that is again the case in many situations. But we really need genuinely loving, affectionate, good friend. That we need. But even those good friends, relatives, and family members, they can do a limited service to you, limited benefit to you. They cannot enter in your mind and think for you, plan for you. So your happiness in your hand. There is a Tibetan master who said that there will be nobody who will catch hold of your hand and throw you into heaven. If there is one, please tell me. I want to see that person. Similarly, there is nobody, however mean and negative and destructive they are, even your enemy, there's nobody who can catch hold of your leg and drag you into hell. They can harm you, yes, a little bit, but they cannot throw you into hell. Nobody, however good a person is, they can help you, but they cannot throw you into heaven. So whether you go to hell or heaven, have genuine happiness or genuine suffering, It is up to you. So therefore, this Tibetan master says that there's nobody who will catch hold of your hand and throw you into heaven. Similarly, there's nobody who will catch hold of your leg and drag you into hell. Your happiness and your suffering is in your hand. Do not cheat yourself. I mean, mark this point. Your happiness and your suffering is in your hand. Do not cheat yourself. You might say, what does this mean? Nobody cheats oneself. No. You are wrong. We cheat ourselves on a daily basis because of distraction, because of ignorance, because of not doing what we should be doing, because of doing what we should not be doing. That's cheating. We want happiness, but not going after those causes and conditions for happiness. We don't want suffering, but always chasing or running after causes and conditions for suffering. That's why we get stuck in the quagmire of suffering and problems. So therefore, I want to urge you to please, I play with this word. Normally two friends meet each other and then they say, bye, take care, right? So I want to say right now, bye, take care. So this time, take care means taking care of your mind. Distance yourself. It's not enough just to distance yourself from the COVID-19, but more important than that, distance yourself from destructive, unhealthy, negative friends. Even more important than that is distance yourself from negative emotions. This is not a new concept. It is like profusely talked about in Buddhism in one's practice. Distance yourself from bad influences. Distance yourself from the intrusion of negative emotions. So please practice this for peace, for happiness, for culture, for civilization, for the pride of India, for the pride of humanity, and so forth. That is the way. If we don't cultivate these inner qualities like loving kindness and compassion and patience and wisdom and things like that, we can never solve all these problems. If we just run after money, just go after material pursuit. This pandemic, COVID-19 itself is a result of human greed. There's so many diseases we are experiencing. These are all, most of is our own doing. In the case of COVID-19, they say almost 60% diseases, including the COVID-19, comes from human beings mishandling or mistreating animals. Right? So therefore, learning to live in harmony with nature, learning to live in harmony with other human beings, focusing on sameness, focusing on unity rather than on what divides us is the key thing for proper civilization, proper culture. Right? So therefore, just to introduce you to the core teaching of the Buddha, which again is the core or foundation of culture or civilization, what you want to call it. Just in 4 lines, in one verse, the Buddha gave the crux of his teaching. And in these 4 lines, he said, do not do anything that is destructive and negative. Do everything that is, do perfectly those things which is positive. Completely discipline your mind or tame your mind. This is my teaching. Very simple, in 4 lines. So first line says, do not do anything that is destructive and negative, which means those activities which directly, indirectly harm others, harm yourself. Don't do those things. Which directly, indirectly harm the environment. Environment basically means the place where we live. Environment means basically where the birds and animals live, where different kinds of spirits live. Imagine the repercussion if you randomly destroy the environment, which many people unfortunately are doing these days. Right? And then it's not enough not to do destructive things. He said, do who do perfectly the virtuous practices, acts. That means developing loving kindness, developing compassion. We don't have time to speak much, but just if I say 2-3 lines, for example, the benefits of developing love. Love is healing. Love minimizes fault. Imagine if everybody, just like your dear parents or whoever loves you wholeheartedly, if we have that kind of love towards each other, where will there be any place for fighting and killing and stealing and exploiting and abusing and things like that? It will not be there. Love minimizes fault. You don't see the fault of other people, you see the good things. Love is a practice, it's a quality which the blind can see and the deaf can hear. I mean, amazing qualities. If you have one, that's why in one of the teaching, the Buddha said, if you have one practice in the palm of your hand, you have all the practices in the palm of your hand. And what is that practice? It is practice of compassion, great compassion. Imagine. This clearly shows we don't practice. If we practice just one quality like great compassion, just one practice, compassion towards all sentient beings, thinking how nice if they all meet with happiness, that they are without suffering, and I myself will come forward to remove their suffering. It's just amazing. It's so healing. And now scientists are saying that people who practice these qualities are also, their immune system is better, their sleep is better, their health is better. Repeatedly, I'm reading these days, article after article. Even if you don't talk about the long-term nirvana or enlightenment and things like that, just for your health and happiness, the positive attitude. Now, how can you cultivate a positive attitude? That is a question that people normally ask, in this world where everybody is trying to take advantage of each other and exploit each other. And then there's so many other problems and sufferings are coming up. How can you maintain such a positive attitude? You need to practice. But for the initial practice, I'll tell you one thing. There is a beautiful quotation from 8th century Buddhist saint Shantideva. He was so peaceful, even when he was a child. Shanti Dut bolta hai na, Shanti, he was almost like an epitome of peace. So people gave him this name, Shantidev. And he has written 8th century. He has written this famous book called Entering the Bodhisattva Way of Life, which is basically a book on ethics, written in 8th century. It has around over 1,000 shlokas, and then there's so many commentaries on that. It's one of the most amazing texts I've ever seen. I read so many books. So there he says, in life there will be problem, there will be difficulty. So he says, when you face a problem and difficulty, if it is something you can change, don't worry, because you can change it. Just make effort and change it. So beautiful. Then he said, if it is something that you cannot change, don't waste your time worrying about it. Do something else. If it's something you can't change, no use worrying. Such a wonderful piece of advice. Such kind of advice is important because normally, we have this habit of just focusing on all the miseries, all the problems. He has did this to me, she has done this to me, the climate is not good, the shoe is small and pinching and whatever, We keep on harping on all those problems. So if you keep on thinking on the problems, you will get the result of experiencing those difficulties. But life is not just problem. Life is not just happiness. And the happiness and suffering also dependent much on how you see things. It's really, really 100% sure. It's how you see things. You try, you test it. You test it. Your mind is the maker of your destiny. So please, please, try to reduce negative emotions like anger. If I say this, you may not be able to digest it. But do some experiment. For example, we call anger a negative emotion. Now, whether this is a negative emotion or a useful emotion, you do some experiment, do some research. I'm just talking on one emotion, negative emotion. There are so many others. If you have time, then gradually you experiment with all this. Now, for example, with anger, I'm 100% sure that at one or other point of time, we have all flared out. We have all become angry, right? Pitaji se gussa ho gaya, mami se gussa ho gaya, we just flare out, get so irritated, angry, and things like that. So now recall those moments when you got angry. What did you do? What did you say? Did you really enjoy the life? Were you really happy when you were angry? What did you achieve through that anger? Just honestly. Right now we are talking about anger as a negative, but to start with, you don't have to say anger is a negative, but do an honest analysis, whether it is positive or negative. Give mark on both the sides, based on your personal experience. I am 100% sure that what the anger did was bringing more suffering, more problem, more disturbance, and does not solve any problem. The reason is because when you get angry, your mind stops functioning. You become blind. Your capacity to judge between what is right and what is wrong is lost. ऐसा कोई भी नहीं है जो सवेरे से दफ्तर जाने से पहले सोचते हैं कि मैं आज गुस्सा करूंगा. ऐसा कोई नहीं करता है ना. Nobody just right in the morning makes a motivation saying that today I'll get angry. Why we don't do? Because we have some idea anger is not good already. But unfortunately, when you go to work and meet people, and especially some not so nice people, then you get angry. Sometimes you fight. है ना? Experience है ना हम सबके पास. Then at the end of the day, when you come back, reflect back, and they recreate the scene of your fighting with somebody. Again, when you look back, review what has happened, I'm 100% sure there's nobody who will say, today I fought with somebody, so I really enjoyed the day. ऐसा कोई है? I don't think so. The only problem is we don't spend enough time to analyze between the constructive emotions and destructive emotions. So now you need to do this, analyze. Don't just follow anybody. Even Buddha, don't just follow like that. Don't follow sheepishly or blindly. Just for your own personal well-being, happiness, well-being of the society, the community, and so forth, your family, and so forth. Change your attitude. Speak nicely, softly. Create that atmosphere of peace wherever you go. Don't compare yourself with others. Blossom like flowers. If you visit a particular garden, you see so many flowers blossoming. But these flowers, I don't think they compete each other. They never compete each other. They only flower, produce their flower, produce the fragrance. That's their job. Then they vanish. Human beings, when our unruly mind is not trained, then we compare and judge people, Judging people. Who are you to judge people? We keep on talking about other people. She did this, he did this, she's ugly, he's handsome, this, that, all those stupid things. So why you just care about yourself? Talk about yourself. What is your state of mind? What is your situation? What is your mental health? How can you improve yourself, transform yourself? We don't do any of these things. And then go out and talking about changing the world. How can you change the world? The English word individual itself, the word itself tells us individual means individual part of the bigger whole, the world. We are individuals. So individuals don't change, how can the world will change? If individuals change, you can right away make some impact, at least in your surrounding, in your family. And I had that experience myself a little bit, right? So anyway, when I'm asking you to be nice, to help others, I'm not asking you to sacrifice yourself. For your own goodness, well-being, you need to strengthen yourself by cultivating this positive inner emotions. These positive inner emotions will not make you weak. Don't misunderstand this. Many people think when we talk about compassion and love, compassion and love, this some religious teachers, they talk about it. In the today's society, ye kam nahi chalega. This is how we think. How did Mahatma Gandhi change the world? How did Nelson Mandela change the world? Or at least in South Africa, He remained more than 20 years in that prison in the Robben Island. I visited that place. I met Nelson Mandela. Had tea or something with him. Such a gentleman. There's no sign of somebody having suffered for 20 years in prison. You see? So such kind of strength comes when you transform your mind. And that kind of mental transformation gives you the ability to adapt yourself to changing situations without making hue and cry of that situation. So that is the heart of civilization. That is the heart of culture. According to the Buddhist teaching, I think these are the most crucial thing, and these are the most neglected part. When we talk about civilization, normally we talk about art and culture. Yes, of course, we are ordinary human being, it's good. But then again, you're talking about what is outside there. Just some days back, some months back, somebody invited me to do an online talk on digitizing and archiving the ancient manuscripts and things like that. Then I said, according to my own understanding and feeling, I said, yes, you can adopt all these wonderful modern ways of archiving, digitizing, things like that. But real archiving has to be done in the brain. For me, that's so important, because you archive all the materials there, but if there's nobody who understands the in-depth meaning of those, what you've archived, what is the use? You can just it will become another museum piece. If you go to many of these big museums in the world, they say, oh, this is so old, this is so sacred, this is so important, this is 20,000 years old, whatever, But then so what? How does this give peace and happiness to other people? Maybe a little bit. I'm not saying it's useless. But the most important thing is, unless you transform your mind, change your mind, you cannot become a civilized person in the true sense of the term. So that's why, you're asking me to say something on the contribution of Buddhism in the Indian civilization becomes appropriate. Because when you talk about Indian civilization, it's not just Buddhism, it's not just Hinduism, it's not just Islam. So many of these great religious traditions, so many of these different philosophical traditions, they all have contributed. So this question that you've asked me is important in the sense, now when we talk about Indian civilization, we are not talking about Buddhism or Islam or Christianity, things like that. We need to talk about what culture, what civilization made Indian people unique. His Holiness the Dalai Lama is full of respect to the Indians, and he himself humbly calls himself as a Chela and the Indians Guru. And then sometimes he jokingly says, not Chela of you, modern people. He's a Chela of all these great Indian stalwarts, Nagarjuna, Shantideva, Kamalashila, Shantarakshita, Guru Pema Sambhava, so many great Indian teachers. They made India proud. So now, because we are running too much after material things, we are forgetting all this great inner civilization, inner culture, inner qualities. And we are all like, in some sense, we are all aping out. We are all living like a monkey, copying everything that comes from the West. I'm not against anything that is from West. I'm not against. There's no reason to be against. But you see, too much focus on technological development. I mean, in India, for example, over 80%, I think, live in villages. They really hardly know anything about this sophisticated technology and things like that. If India has to develop, if Indian culture and civilization has to be preserved, it has to be preserved in the hearts of all this population, not just in few big cities where there's a, multi-story building and where there are shiny gadgets and computers and there. That's not the way to preserve civilization and culture. And if India really has to stand out, एक समय था पुराने जमाने में इंडिया को बोलता था सोने का चिड़िया, right? There was a time in India when nobody had to lock their door. Everybody was able to trust others. That is culture. That is civilization. अभी तो कितना भी मजबूत दरवाजे क्यों ना हो, तोड़ने वाला तोड़ के जाता है. क्यों? Because there is no sense of shame, no sense of concern for others. Again, to quote Nagarjuna, Nagarjuna beautifully said, if this world is to be sustained, then it can be sustained by two practices, having sense of shame and sense of concern for others. Shame and concern for others. Shame means use your own reason. I cannot steal because I'm an Indian. I'm son or daughter of this and that family. I belong to this religion, that religion. Because of this, if you don't steal, don't do anything that is negative and bad and destructive, that's called having shame, which is so good. Similarly, sense of concern for others. If I do this, it is not suitable to my teacher, name of my teacher and things like that, or to the well-being of other people. All right? So therefore, I want to urge you, although I'm sure you know all this, I'm not saying as if you don't know anything, you know everything, probably. But sometimes even if you know, knowing is one thing, but to keep it in heart and practicing is another thing. So therefore, if you really want to get established in life, help others. Be less egoistic. So one of the greatest contributions that the Buddha made was not accepting a creator God. Because he came at a time when there were so many people accepting a creator God. So many of these Saramandirikas or Sharmandiras, they say, who was not satisfied with what is happening in the society and went into the forest, they challenged many of the prevailing situations there. And Buddha was one of the bold practitioners who denied the existence of God. Again, I'm not saying that believing in God is not useful. Whether it's useful or not useful is a different thing. Again, I'm not saying which religion is best, or I'm simply saying the reason that Buddha did not talk about a creator God was his main focus was to believe in oneself. Personal responsibility. That makes perfect sense even today. If you want to change the world will not change by praying to God or praying to Buddha. It is you're taking the step, you're taking the responsibility, me taking the responsibility. We can change the world, not just sitting and praying. Personal responsibility. And then another very important contribution that he made was there is no enduring self, everlasting self. He spoke about impermanence, he spoke about suffering, and then he spoke about having nothing, person or any phenomena having enduring reality primarily in the sense of having independent existence. This is a great finding. Even the scientists today, They've started talking about, for example, the general theory of relativity and the specific theory of relativity and things like that. They've started talking about theory of relativity and things like that. But then they've started talking about finding the objective reality, finding the objective reality. Buddha said there's nothing having objective independent. There is an object on a conventional sense, but nothing having independent inherent existence. If you try to find it out, you will not find anything where you can pinpoint your finger and say, this is it. You will never find it. The Buddha said this like 2,500 years before. Now the scientists, not long before, they are working very hard. For example, about atoms and particles, with the hope that they will be able to find the subtlest atom or subtlest particle, and that they could say that this is the fundamental building block. We found it. That's what they wanted to say. Buddha said, you will never find it. Now they have not found it still. Now they are saying that we thought this is the fundamental one. Then when our machines by which you analyze these things become more sophisticated, you see more particles popping up. So now they're talking about wave particle duality. When they thought this is particle, it changes into wave. When they thought this is wave, it changes into particle. You see. Right? Great contribution. Now the scientists are gradually coming to that. Now, like they are gradually accepting that even when you talk about the object and describe it, it is very much dependent on the person, the subjective scientist, the subjective person who is describing it. You cannot, from that point of view, talk about objective reality, which is totally independent of the describer. Now, this also some of the leading scientists, they have started agreeing on that. Now, Now I think our time is probably finishing. How many minutes we have? Yeah, we are nearly done. So I will stop. Just conclude. So then the key question now to conclude: why should we bother our dear head by trying to understand all this sophisticated philosophy? You see, this is so important because our ordinary way of seeing things is that I exist independently, my enemy exists independently, so there is an enemy that must be fought, that must be eliminated, otherwise he's not going to die, right? But it's not like that. Whether you kill that or not, the enemy, it's only a matter of time, it will die. Therefore, the Buddhist teachers, they say you don't have to kill people, they will die. Those of us who don't understand that, oh my God, we make such powerful, sophisticated nuclear bombs and so forth to destroy this very, very fragile, innocent human being. It's all out of ignorance, stupidity. And once you understand this reality of the person, the identity of the person as having no independent, inherent existence, it's just fluid. It's changing all the time. It's like a stream. As the Buddha said, Buddha told one of his student to go and wash himself in a river. And when that person came back, then Buddha said, did you wash in the same river or different river? He said, no, I wash in the same river. The Buddha said, no, you cannot wash in the same river again. You cannot step into the same river again because the river that in which you washed is already gone. It's the greatest example. So like that, we are always changing. We are in a state of flux. Now scientists, they say that a person undergoes complete change. Complete, I'm saying complete means complete, okay? Including your cells and etc. Undergoes complete change in 7 years. Hard for us to digest because we have this tendency of seeing things as having never changing, concrete. I'm the same person, I mean, you compare the picture when you were just 1-year-old baby and now you're 50-year-old young man or whatever. Compare, it's totally two different things. But because of the continuity, we say this is the same person. Now, what is the point of understanding? The point of understanding this is that when you realize that it's just everything is in a state of flux, in a change, why should you develop so much grasping and craving to that? It's not just you, others also like that. They are also fragile, impermanent. Why should you harm them? So I'm just today giving you a hint so that you can show more interest and study. Right? These are complex but extremely, extremely useful concepts. So there are many, many great ideas which has contributed to the world civilization and definitely to the Indian civilization. So therefore, it is the responsibility and a task which we should all very proudly upheld as Indians. Because today, there's so much interest in Buddhism in the Western countries, in the places where there's a very strong scientific development. There's more interest. And we used to have frequent, 5-6 days dialogue, whole day dialogue and conversation between Buddhists and scientists in Dharamsala, many times. Right? So it becomes our responsibility, especially the younger generation, to understand this perennial philosophy. This perennial philosophy, important teachings are really like medicine. Medicine you need for a long time, so long as and when you get sick, you need medicine. So as and when you get mentally sick, you need this philosophy, these ways of thinking. So I hope you will take good care of it. Okay, now I'll say bye, take care. And you know the meaning, right? Bye, take care.
Thank you so much, Geshe Lhakdor,
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
and your precious message.
Thank you.